The other day I was walking downtown and ran into a good friend of mine. She wanted to thank me for doing these video meditations and then went on to say, "I don't know how you keep coming up with things to talk about." She paused and then said, "Well, I guess you just have to be among people and listen." I said, "Yeah, that's true." And it is so true. It's how Jesus did his ministry. He came among the people and listened, particularly those who no one else wanted to listen to, those that lived on the margins, those who were outcasts, unclean, sick, disabled, poor, the tax collectors, the prostitutes, and other assorted sinners. These were the folks that Jesus hung out with, listening to their cries, to their lives. And then, and only then, did he bring healing and hope. In Christ, God came among us and continues to come among us, even in the midst of COVID, of racial tensions, and of political chaos. He comes among us in the midst of our daily lives, to all of us, but especially to those whose cries are often overheard, overlooked, and go unheard. He comes to us to hear and to see, and then offers us the promise of healing and hope. He calls us to do likewise. It's a little more difficult these days to go among the people. It sometimes takes a text, a Zoom, a video conference, a FaceTime, an email. But how do we come among those who need to talk most? And how do we listen? I used to think I was a pretty good listener until COVID hit. And I have learned how to listen all over again. I've learned to hear things, to really listen in order to hear. For it's harder to see and harder to be. And so we must rely on our listening skills to pick up those clues and those cues of what's really going on in people's lives, and in the lives of our communities and our nation. In a world that is full of words, it's challenging to do that kind of listening. As part of my work with evangelism, when I go into a congregation, I usually love to do an exercise, just kind of get people's attention. I pair them up and then have them share with one another the family plans for the next upcoming holiday, perhaps Thanksgiving or Christmas in this case. The catch is that the one who is sharing talks, and the one who is listening listens, and only listens. They cannot interrupt, they cannot ask questions, they cannot interject. They must simply sit quietly and listen. I have found over the years this is pure hell for some people. And I do it primarily to highlight how difficult it is just to listen, and how poorly we are trained as listeners. We listen so that we may talk in this country. We listen so that we know what to say when the other person gives us a chance. When there's a lull in the conversation, we can jump in and spin it. so that it becomes all about us. As I said, I do the exercise primarily to get people's attention. That wasn't until a morning in Pittsburgh, when during the break following that exercise, a woman, not a young woman by any means, came up to me with tears forming in her eyes. She wanted to thank me for doing the exercise. She said never, ever in her lifetime had anybody truly listened to her. Yeah. How many are there out there who have never been heard? God sends us out to listen. I encourage you today to pay attention to how you listen. How well do you hear the cries of those around you? How do you pick up the cues and the clues? Pay attention and practice your listening in the highways and the byways, at work and at home. And it may be surprising what you hear. Where cross the crowded ways of life, where sound the cries of race and clan, above the noise of selfish strife, we hear your voice, O Son of Man. In haunts of wretchedness and need, on shadowed thresholds dark with fears, from paths where hide the lures of greed, we catch the vision of your tears. From tender childhood's helplessness, from human grief and burden toil, from famished souls, from sorrow stress, your heart has never known recoil. The cup of water given for you still holds the freshness of your grace. Yet long these multitudes to view the strong compassion in your face. O Master, from the mountainside, make haste to heal these hearts of pain. Among these restless throngs abide, O tread the city's streets again. Till all the world shall learn your love and follow where your feet have trod, till glorious from your heaven above shall come the city of our God.